Hello and welcome back to MrStarmatter. Today's video will be my top 5 tips of debating theology. Number 1. Do not stretch definitions. Definitions are just that, definitions. They don't mean anything more than what they actually say that they mean. For example, two very common things here. Atheist does not mean religion is evil, or even God does not exist. Christian does not mean creationist or evangelist. Take only what the definition itself actually states, and only even then to the extent of whom you are directing it towards. For example, don't take Christian equals evangelist towards, say, your grandmother, who maybe goes to church once every other month. Ideally, you should also cite a number of sources, a number of dictionaries, or usually thesauruses, for your definition to ensure that it isn't just one group or ethnicities. One dictionary may say apples are blue, the others may say apples are red, for example. Number 2.
Don't assault the Creator for what the created have done. God isn't in the streets, or even in the masses. He is in the Holy Scriptures, and the individuals that decide what that scripture means are not necessarily taking it as what God, he, she, whatever, may have actually intended it to mean. Even in Christianity there are disagreements, and the different priests interpret the Bible in different ways. Should God be held accountable for each of those interpretations? Especially if one of those priests performs some kind of atrocity or crime, is God responsible for that? On the note of atrocities, Hitler, Stalin, and the Crusades are all things people like to bring up, but most individuals still alive today had nothing to do with these events or their content. The various gods of these involved to have... sorry for that. The various gods of those involved did not come down to earth to cause the atrocities associated with them. The people following them did, on the other hand, and so it is a bad move to irrevocably associate the idea and concept of the religion itself with the people who decide to use it as justification for what they wanted to do. Don't hang the god for a murder of one of his folk. Number 3. Don't correlate where you cannot demonstrate. For example, atheist suicide rates are irrelevant to atheism. The people are not the belief. Science and atheism often appear very much together, but not all atheists are scientific, and not all scientists are atheists. In actuality, a remarkably small portion of scientists worldwide are atheists. Don't assume that every believer or non-believer thinks the same things about the same information. People are individual. Only beliefs are unanimous within themselves. Individuals will take the scriptures of their religion and they will construe them in their own ways. So unless you can show, through evidence, that there is actually a link between the two factors, A and B equals C, don't point at them as though there is one. And now, speaking of pointing, number 4, present evidence, don't just point to it. Sometimes explaining evidence can take a long time, including teaching your audience fundamentals required to understand it. But don't just point to your evidence. This comes off as laziness and disinterest, weakening your position and ultimately your case. You can cite sources for brevity, but don't say, here's a video, go watch it. Explain what the video shows according to your own personal interpretation, and if the audience wants to, they can go and they can investigate it, and they can maybe come back with a retort, or an alternate view, or, maybe they'll actually find it even stronger. But don't just point to your evidence. Number 5. Did I skip one? Use more than one piece of evidence to support your claims. If a theory is supported by one singular piece of evidence, it is a very flimsy theory. As examples, evolution is based on radiocarbon dating of fossils, genetic heritage, speciation, and adaptation. Christianity is based on 2,000 years of history, several holy books, the Old Testament and New Testament chiefly, depending on your denomination, and several proposed miracles. You build a house with more than one support structure. You should also build a theory with more than one piece of evidence. This is especially important when your audience, for whatever reason, refuses to accept the evidence you are presenting. Regardless of whether they don't understand it or they just outright deny it, if your entire case is based on one piece of evidence, you have nothing else to turn to. And bonus, don't be snarky or insulting.
It's very tempting to be sarcastic when talking to someone with profoundly different views to you, and it's also very tempting to insult them, because you personally cannot understand why they think the way they do rather than how you do. But never stoop to such infantile gestures. No one reacts well to being insulted, regardless of circumstance, and sarcasm and childish behavior only serves to make your case look weaker, because it makes you look like a schoolyard fool. That's all for now. If you have any ideas on what I should do next, by all means post in the comments.